Welcome to the Oh So Spurs, Bilbao and Aston Villa joint preview. I mean, partly because no one's really talking about Aston Villa, so we're going to focus mostly on Bilbao. But I think most people are just kind of Joe looking at Villa and thinking like, what's the lineup going to be? Because I hope no one gets injured for Bilbao, but I also can't bear the emotional strain of losing to Villa. So we've got to find this balance of a side good enough to do well against Villa, keep the cohesion going, but also risk no hamstrings, right? Is that fair?
In a perfect world, that would be what we were going to do. But do we live in a perfect world? No. So it's. You're right though. We were going to say do a Villa preview, and then we would just drift on to talking about the final anyway. So let's just put it all together, and we can get derailed by the final and just touch on a bit of Villa, just to be like, yeah, that is still going to happen as well.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way of doing it today. And Sai is in the house as well to help us a bit. How are you, Sai?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Yeah, I don't know really what we talk about.
Well, one question.
Who's got their boots for next week?
Yeah, well, we were just discussing this. We're going to have to go with use an opportunity to build cohesion going into that final. And
yeah,
I think taking 2 weeks off is not going to be the right thing. Would you, and just hey to Sean as well in the comments there. Hey Sean, how you doing, mate? He says farewell opportunity for Timo Werner. Bring him back in. Isn't he injured?
I don't
even know what happened. He's just been isolated.
Yeah.
Just cast to the caster.
Is he in the European squad?
Maybe he was taken out.
I think he was taken out.
Yeah.
But I don't think our front line's a problem, mate.
No.
That's not where we got the issues. The issues is how do we deal with that? We're 3 fit midfielders.
Well, okay, let's dive straight in. How do we? We've tried the Saar, Basuma, and Bentancur experiment. It didn't really work in the past, did it?
So, do you change a formation at the last minute to try and accommodate 2 central midfielders, or do you just go all out 4-3-3 and push your wingers high and wide and try and get around the back of their fullbacks? Because that's where it's going to be won and lost on the wings, right? Because their wing backs are going to dictate, how they stretch us and how they play against us. I think that's going to be the key for them is their wing backs getting at us.
But isn't it as simple as just putting Odegaard, Tell, or Son in the 10 role, and just accepting they won't be as natural of a fit as Madison, Bergvall, or Kulusevski would have been, and just kind of accepting there's a trade-off and a slightly different playing style there?
Yeah, I guess it depends. Yeah, it depends on what you're trying to achieve, I think. Because he puts Son there, he has little touches and flicks that he can do, and he's fairly creative. But defensively, is he going to know what to do? Not is he going to do it? Is he actually going to know how his role works? And I think that's going to be the issue, is weighing up the defensive side of what the 10 does. Because Kulu mentioned that when he started playing it, he said, I've had to learn more of the defensive side of the game. So it's obviously part of it. And so you could say Saar would be more confident in that, and we could go over pressing forward and have Saar just press. Or we could have more creative and go Sonny in and be a bit more fragile.
Because Sonny's not very good with his back to goal. We know that from when he plays that lone striker role, right? And you've got to be able to take the ball with your back to goal on the half turn and create in that number 10 role.
Well, do you just then have that versatile front, 2 of those front 3 as versatile options that are going to swap in as well? Because you had Odegaard and Son on the pitch, you could just tell those players to keep rotating position, keeping it difficult for the opposition. If you had Tell, Odegaard, and Son, you could really mix things up because they could all just swap positions throughout the game. At least Son playing in that role, we might see him try a few of those curlers that we miss so badly. Having that.
Oh, that sets it up, doesn't it? It sets up the dream. Sonny curler winner.
Yes. I'm all for that. Let's do that one. Defense, though, nothing changes, right, guys? It's obvious. Like against Villa, I think you play. Do you play the best team and the best defense for 60 minutes, and then just bring off pretty much everyone but Porro on that back line? I'm assuming he'll keep Porro on because he seems to just play Porro more, and then just bring off Udogie for Spence, bring on Davies and Dan. So at least you can kind of be in a position where if we're still in the game, he's like, right, told you, I can compete with Villa, but look, Bilbao now, guys, I'm going to take everyone off and we're going to lose. But everyone remember what the score was before I took them all off.
Yeah.
Could see a bit of that, couldn't we?
Do you think he could do something radical next week in terms of going to 3 at the back? And using Porro and Udogie as pushing on as wing backs to counter their wing backs. It's not something that I would necessarily do, but you've seen a bit of that online. It's a discussion to be had. I think it's an option. He's played 3 at the back before, hasn't he?
Who would you play as a 3? Obviously Van de Ven and Romero, but who's the third?
Danso. You'd have Romero in the middle as your ball playing that would step into midfield at times as a 6 when we're attacking to free up some of those midfielders. But then you've got they're going to play 2 attacking midfielders, aren't they? They play a 3-4-2-1, don't they?
They do, yeah.
So they'll have a double pivot protecting the back 3 with their wing backs bombing on. So, or do you just go out there we know we play 4-3-3 and you just go and play that as hard as you can for 90 minutes?
I think you've got to stick with the winning formula that's worked in the other games.
Yeah,
best you can.
I think it's too late to change, in my opinion. But I wouldn't want to be making this decision. I think the decision to who you play against Villa is more nerve-wracking to me than the whole of the final, because I just don't want someone to get injured. I feel good about the final. I'm just not. I don't feel. Romero and Van de Ven playing at all. I know there's momentum, but it's not been that long since they played. I said I'd hate to be the one making this decision, rather than who's playing in the final. It's who's playing against Villa, because we know the stats for Romero and Van de Ven playing, they have to be fit for the final. And I don't know, a Villa going to do what Mark Gay did, and Palace seemingly wanted to hurt someone. They were super aggressive. So Is our view clouded by, and of course it is, but how much, I guess, is it clouded by the amount of injuries we've had this season? If we hadn't have been so injury prone, we're not even having a discussion about Romero, are we?
Yeah, that's
Van de Ven maybe, because he's had a couple of hamstrings over time, but we're not even having a conversation about Romero. And if the rest of the team hadn't suffered,
that's true.
Yeah.
It is a lot of paranoia. But you blame people when, like, even against Palace, you play 2 players, you think there's only 2 on that pitch that we need to worry about staying fit, and one of them gets injured in 15 minutes. So you're just like, you can see why the paranoia is there, especially around Van de Ven. The idea of him sprinting for anything in that game just fills me with terror. But we have to let these players play. Otherwise, we can't call them great players because they can't play.
We're helicopter parenting the team now. We're just sitting there like, don't touch that. Don't put that in your mouth.
Yeah, that is true.
It's so we've gone through this injury crisis this year, and then we came out of it, and everyone's starting to be fit, and then subtly it's started to happen again. Luckily, the season's about to end, but Jesus Christ, it's been chaos this year. It's just been absolutely insane with their injuries, and it's got to be an abnormal thing. This surely can't continue like this. But I'm glad this part of the season will be over, and hopefully it ends with a trophy.
Someone posted a really funny tweet earlier. It said, "I've had an idea for a calendar," and it was just 12 pictures of all our players in hospital beds doing the thumbs up over the course of the season. So going through the title, but every month you've had one and you won. Hey,
when they were injured.
Yeah, exactly.
Kulu's the May one.
Yeah, Kulu's the May one. Yeah, a bit of competition for May actually. But yeah, and as Will said, we are all petrified, mate. As we have just discussed there. So Johnny says the last time we played a back 3, Everton raced into a 3-0 lead. That's very true. Kulusevski was playing Vinci. That's interesting. He may have been actually. That would explain why I hadn't been starting.
He did get rushed back a little bit, didn't he? He was sort of forced back in.
Yeah. Well, he was there to get minutes into his legs, wasn't he? I mean, that was the whole point, and maybe he did come back a little bit early. Yeah.
Yeah. MS, still can't believe we made the final after a season that is relegation form. It's I do like how much that's rattled so many, like all the independent journalists who support either Forest, Villa, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man U, Man City don't care about us, Man U, those kind of clubs. They're like, how on earth is it possible? We've been laughing at Spurs all year for them to potentially come out of the season in a better situation from us at the 13th hour. How? And it just annoys them greatly. So take great pleasure and solace in that if I was anyone else. And don't let it
I'll
wind
tell
you
you
up.
why they're so bitter is that they have been in the doldrums for years where we've been pushing Champions League spots for a decade now. They finally get to the point where they're better than us and they could tell us that we're rubbish and one of them's not going to make the European spots at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why they're bitter at it. But we are not getting much luck either, so we're all down in the doldrums in some sense, but we've got a final, you don't.
Yeah, no one can say Spurs have been lucky this year to get anything. I don't think so. Yeah,
and maybe that's the omen for the final, Jim, is that this is the final test. This is the final, it's like the trials and tribulations of the season. This is the last hurdle we got to get over, and the team will come through it. Those three midfielders will play 120 minutes of outstanding football, and Biss gets in there at 120 plus 3 injury time to score the winner.
Yeah.
With a volley that he's never done before in his life.
with a volley from the edge of the box that usually hits Rose Ed.
Yeah.
It does feel like someone above the clouds just has like an alarm next to them when Spurs are doing well and things are on par, and they're like, do, the Spurs happiness bell rings, and they're like, no, and they just
it's almost like that, isn't it?
Bolt.
What's that? But
yeah,
Spurs have got a full squad.
At your door, then you threw me off.
We'll soon play to that. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Dink.
Well, our captain literally got struck by lightning and died in the 60s, didn't he? Was it the 50s? Whatever it was. Literally got struck by lightning. So
is it on a golf course?
Happening. On a golf course, yeah.
Yeah.
Winding down before a huge game, wasn't he, as well? Just
get out there and relax.
There is definitely a few more lightning bolts to come. So we just got to brace ourselves for that.
Yeah. I think we've got to turn up and go at them, though, haven't we? We've got to turn up and we've got to have a go. If you have a go at this side, they can see goals. We've got to get at them. We can't. I don't think we can afford to sit back and try and hit them on the break.
Yeah, I think so too. You've got to be positive and act like we are the better team. We are here to win it.
We are the better team.
I'd agree. Yeah,
I feel like they've done fairly well in Europe to get this far anyway, because teams don't play as physically as in the Premier League, and now they're coming up against the Premier League team. If we just go out there with the idea to dominate them physically, I think we can do it for sure. I think we have more motivation than them as well. If you watch their press conferences, Amarin saying things like, it's not that big a deal, we'll have a barbecue if we win, it doesn't change anything for us. And then you have sort of people like Gary Neville saying things like, it's massive for Man United because they need the money. Well, players don't care about how much profit and loss the club makes. They have motivations for themselves and to win trophies. And if Man United's motivation is so they can get Champions League, to spend money and to sell some of these players that are playing in the game, and ours is to win a trophy and to get this monkey off our back and to go and do something historic for the club. And Ange is preaching that, and you can tell in the players' press conferences that what they want as well. To me, the motivations, and obviously it's football, so things can happen in a game, but with those sort of motivations difference, we've seen in our Premier League games, when we go into games where it means nothing, like what's going to happen against Villa, and then we have games that mean something, and we have a certain squad playing, which just, to me, that's why I feel confident about this final, is that I feel like our players want this and are actually going to go do this too. I believe in this team that they can do it.
Yeah. I don't think Ange will bring any of that negative energy around, like players being unavailable into that room. He'll be like, what's the big deal? It's fine. It's just normal. It's he'll go home and he'll just grab his pillow and scream into it. But in front of the players, I think he'll just act really calm. And he's done these I know people will say like, it wasn't the same level or blah, blah, blah. But he's been in loads of finals. Yeah. And it doesn't.
Still pressure. And Amarin hasn't been there.
Exactly. Amber hasn't been there. And it's all relative, right? The pressure's still the same. It's just relative to where you are in your journey at that time.
Yep.
So I don't think he's going to be like, Poch was, oh my God, I'm in this moment, and then overthink it, try and make a change doesn't need to be made, or rush certain players into positions because they're the ones who worked in the league for them, or whatever it is. I think Ange will have a bit of a clearer mind. He's more of the type of manager. We've got an advantage there in the manager, which is really, really important.
It does feel different like that, doesn't it, than 2019? Because when you think back, it feels like we were just there. And I know it's been said a lot, but it does sort of hindsight thinking back, the energy was, we're just, maybe we could win. Hope so. But now it feels like, we can actually go and do something.
And we sort of fluked the quarters and the semis, didn't we, really?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, let's be really honest with ourselves. That's I know I'm not, that side was, we papered over a lot of cracks with that final. And that was a team that was probably over the crest on its way down that got to that final.
Yeah.
Whereas this team has got the potential to be on the up towards the crest and get to a final and push on from it. That I think there's a big difference there. Yeah, we've had a disastrous league season, but we've got all the mitigation in the world for that, and we've gone through that a million times, and we don't need to go through it again. And there's not a manager. I don't think there's a manager in the Premier League that would have done much better with that sort of those sort of setbacks in the season. But I think we've just got to go out and play our football, and not worry too much about them. And I think there's a comment in there about their defense is much weaker than our defense, and I think it's got to be a game like that where we just keep getting at them and we put them under pressure. We can't have a game where we're limited to 1 or 2 shots on target. We've got to go and pepper their goal. I mean, he's a bit of a dodgy sort as well, the keeper, isn't he? He can have his moments at times. So let's get around him. Let's get at him.
Absolutely. MS also saw what was the reaction of 2 English sides in the final of a European Cup in Europe. Don't make any.
Quite a difficult question. I'm not sure reaction of whom to that, but I guess there's a bit of a. I don't think that there's many English teams really want another English team to do well in Europe anyway. So that we will have the support of Liverpool, Man City supporters, and United will have the support of Arsenal and any other London club that wants to jump on board there, I guess.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any particular pride in England for 2 English teams getting there. I'm not sure. There's a lot of talk about the 16th and 17th team, whatever we end up at being at the end of the season, getting through to those finals, and it becomes a talking point. Maybe because it's Spurs, maybe because it's Man United, but yeah. You hear quite a lot that Italians are proud when two Italian clubs get through, or the Spanish are proud. I'm not sure that's prevalent in the UK or in England, certainly.
Yeah, I think another thing that plays in our favour is everyone's seen Man United do this so many times. So it might be. I think the neutral's going to be like, oh well, I don't want either to win. So maybe it's nice to see someone new. And for Man United fans, I do think there's an element of them wanting to win this a lot, but not as much as us, because they've won much bigger. Most fans have seen them win much bigger trophies than this.
Do you think we need it more?
The Champions League, and we need it more. For them, I think they're like doesn't really helps with our short-term FFP issues, but it's not. It
helps with our recruitment as well, right? It massively helps us with recruitment. Man United can attract players. They don't have to be in the Champions League to attract top players, right? But it helps where we go shopping, right? It helps the supermarket that we go to. We can go to Waitrose instead of Aldi's.
Yeah, it does make a big difference. And I feel like Man United's position in the league is, they can't say, it's because of loads of circumstances. Well, there is because of loads of circumstances, but it's not because of they don't have that big injury crisis to blame it on and all those kind of things. It's like their position is a bit more squirmy. As a bit more like, Spurs have got Champions League, and you know what? You could see a world they do shoot back up into the top 6 or top 8 next year quite comfortably. Whereas Man United, I think most people I think the next step's trying to get them back to mid-table and start to rebuild this whole way of playing. So I think we're in a better spot than them.
We have some pretty decent reasons to be in the situation we are too, because it wasn't just injuries. It was after injuries we only focused on Europe because see how much Vicky and Romero played in the Premier League, where they seemingly this is just them in their position. So, but I think with winning the league, the cup, we have the purest form of motivation too. Is what it's meant to be, is to win it for the sake of winning it. I don't see it coming from their camp as much. And there's saying here that in the comments that the biggest thing in the final is motivation. I believe 100%. Things happen in sport and in football that can just get thrown out the window on the day, and we just gotta. And I feel it coming from the camp. The boys want it. The boys do want it. So we can. I feel. What are people feeling optimism wise? Can you people? I know that I'm an optimistic person, and Jim gets scared by my optimism, but
Jim gets scared by your optimism. My goodness!
I want to know how people feel about being confident and optimistic about this, because I know people don't like to do it because it hurts more, I guess, if it doesn't pay off. So, what are you guys feeling on optimism levels?
I'm the pessimist to your optimist. So, I don't think I go into any game with any level of confidence. I honestly, not that I think we're going to lose, but I hate, especially the high stakes stuff. I can't relax. I can't be confident, and so maybe I'm the yin to your yang when it comes to your ultra optimism. I've got that. I don't know if it's a healthy dose or an unhealthy dose of pessimism, just to balance the scales.
Yeah, that's why the show's so good.
Maybe the wave of Australian support Ange has brought along is going to bring a bit more of a winner's positive attitude towards the final, and that will work in our favour. Maybe these small things will make a difference.
Do you think fans have that? Sorry, you go. Shout out, Sean.
I was going to shout out the Gouda / Sean. So thank you so much, Sean. Legend as always in supporting the show. And on the Sonny topic, we were discussing this earlier. We think there's a script there of him in that 10 role that he could find himself on the edge of the box in one of those positions. He's so famously scored those beautiful goals from to win it. And wouldn't that be the most magical way for Sonny to cap off his I'm not saying he'll be his last season, but like end his Tottenham. If I was him, actually, that's a question. As Son, if you did that, you won us the title, because he hasn't extended his contract yet, has he? Or has he?
Didn't they trigger? They triggered a year, didn't they?
I believe so.
I think they triggered. I think they've triggered the extra 12 months. I think.
Okay.
It's just one of those ones to say you just can't really walk. It's just I guess, a cheap way to leave. But are you going to ask? Will he walk away at the end of the season if we win?
I was going to say, like, in his shoes, would you consider being like, this could be the fairy tale way, and I've still got time to go for one more like contract in like the Bundesliga or Serie A or Liga and get another major trophy, and then go for the money, like in Saudi or whatever it is, what you want to do?
He could quite easily go to the US, couldn't he?
Yeah.
It's as me as a fan, I would say I'd want to do a victory lap season, but I know but it would be nice for Sonny, I guess, too, for that to happen. And if we do, we have Brighton as well as a sort of like a good send off. So
I mean, if we did get the win, I'd love to see him and Davis start against Brighton. Stick Ben Davis in for a start against Brighton, and let's give them both get them on the virtual shoulders, on the metaphorical shoulders for that game, because they've both been superb servants. Now I think Davis goes under the radar a lot, doesn't he?
He does.
He does, yeah.
He does. Nick thinks, well, his United friends seems to think it's a bigger game for them. I think they're talking nonsense, Nick. There's unless it's meant in like a belittling way that, I mean, trophies mean nothing for little old Spurs. They can't move the needle for them. They're just Tottenham, and we're Man United. We're the club that needs them all. I don't know if it means it like that, but either way is wrong. So
I had a United mate put in the group WhatsApp about it. It said, I think he said something like, getting beaten by Spurs in this final will be like losing an arm wrestle to your wife. And I said, well, she's already beat you 3 times at it this season already, mate. So what does that tell you? All right, Deej.
Hello.
What we got on today? What top we got on today then, Deej? What's that? What you rocking?
A San Francisco Giants baseball jersey.
There you go.
Well,
Lovely,
the only
mate.
team of mine that's winning at the moment, so gotta
give it
gotta
till,
take what I can
give it till
get.
Wednesday, mate.
Well, yeah.
Well, soon Spurs will be the only team to win a major trophy that you sport in the last 12 months, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm trying to do the Joe thing. That really felt weird. I didn't like that. Didn't like that. Didn't like that at all. Thank you, MS. They were very kind of you, mate, to donate to
And
the show.
Sean
Very
held
kind.
it. Get in.
Sean what? Sean what? Sean what?
Sean
Oh,
stuck
Sean
a
Hill.
tenner in.
Oh, thanks, Sean. That's really nice
Nice
of you, mate.
one.
The game is about glory, and we are the glorious Tottenham Hotspur. Time to shine. It does feel a little bit different this time.
Yeah.
I've always gone to finals thinking it sounds really bad. I've always gone to finals with a deep down thinking I can't picture us winning it. This time I've seen some AI generated stuff. I'm like, oh, makes my tummy tickle a bit. I'm like, I can actually see this maybe happening. Not like it definitely will, but I believe a little bit. I'm actually believing.
Yeah.
There you go, Jim. Let it
Well,
out.
you're coming
Let it
across.
go
You're
through
coming
you.
across. I mean, when
You
we
can have
won
a
it in
good
80
week beforehand, and then you get to enjoy it as well. That's the best part about optimism.
There
You can
you
have fun
go.
before the event as well, not just after.
And that might be the best. Like, at least even if it didn't come off, you're like, well, I love the run up. I would
Exactly,
have enjoyed
exactly.
those 2 weeks.
Mhm.
I don't know what I'd do with myself on the airplane on the way back from holiday if we won, because it's like the next day I go home. I think it would be.
You get
Well, I've got
drunk.
a question. Do I have a
So,
beer with the game at 5 a.m. kickoff?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Absolutely.
Stupid question, Joe, if I'm honest.
Are we allowed to talk about this on YouTube?
We have an unnamed beverage.
I thought in Australia you have it for breakfast anyway. Is that just not a normal day?
Well, yeah, we've changed in the last couple of years. We're a different country now.
Oh yeah.
Did we? I heard when I got in and was waiting in the waiting room, we were at the tail end of the Sun at the 10 discussion, or who was going to play as a 10, basically. Did I hear that
Who
right?
is DJ?
Yeah,
Well,
I don't
I
know.
think
See,
we're just
the
throwing
thing
random
is-
names around these to see what
So-
sticks.
If we can't convince Christian Eriksen to put on the old top one more time, he'll already be there. May as well.
True.
He'll play more minutes for us than he will for them. If we can't figure that, I actually don't hate the idea of Son being the 10, not because I think he's a good 10, but because of the ability that James Maddison has had to make those runs into space and get hit with a ball over the top, that I think a player like Son has made kind of his entire career. Like, he kind of made his living for a few seasons doing that with Kane, right? And so I think that part of the reason he struggled this year is that we don't manufacture those kinds of chances for our current wingers. So it'd be interesting to see if he would be able to take advantage of that kind of space that he has in the midfield, the more that freedom to take those kind of runs and be picked out by Romero or Porro, to see if that's something that we could take advantage of. Also, I know he doesn't have the best, I don't think, obviously he's not as technical on the ball as you'd want for a 10, but I think just based on his, he's solid enough in the link up play. I think when it's him and Udogie and Maddison, that I think that if he just rotates over one position, I don't think it's the end of the world.
So Deej is all in on Sonny. You're just desperate to see him lift the trophy and captain us and lead us out, aren't you? Admit it.
Well,
Admit it.
yeah, but the only reason that who else are you gonna play? Unless if
No, he has to start. He has to start. Absolutely.
No, I'm saying who starts at the 10. Because if Berival doesn't come back from injury, which I don't know, we're starting to hear rumors that he might maybe, but not sure how much I buy that. So if that doesn't happen, if that doesn't work, or so if he's not back, who are you playing? I refuse to go into a Europa League final with Bentancur, Bissouma, and Sarr as our midfield three. It's just a recipe for failure. We've tried that 3 times this season, and I think they have been 3 of our 5 worst games of the season.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. So you need to have someone creative in there, someone who can cause like issues for the back line. And I think that realistically, the only player that I'm semi-comfortable with in that position is unless, I don't know, maybe play Solanke there. He drops deep enough anyway.
He holds
Yeah.
the ball well. He lays it off well. He can play
I
with his
guess-
back to goal, which Sonny can't.
That's true.
Well, I'll put a poll in a sec when I've sorted out my forever-ending camera issues that I need to fix.
I see Sean Hurl there says he was behind Tony Park's goal in '84. My goodness, that would have been and '84. There you go, right? So we lose Hoddle in the semi-final, and that's a disaster. We lose Clements for the final. That was a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
This team, maybe like I said, maybe it's the final hurdle for us to overcome. Maybe this is the one where it just is the cherry on top.
I'm not much of a woo-woo sort of person, but it would sort of fit the narrative or the storyline that Spurs have so many trials and tribulations this season, and then we have to get through it all. Even things like we played Galatasaray, and the atmosphere was intense. It was crazy, and we were really affected by it. And then we went to Frankfurt, and because we'd experienced that already this year, we were able to manage that game really well. And it kind of does feel like all those things are adding up to that position where we sort of have to get over that hurdle, and maybe that's the floodgates opening, and this is when it all begins. And that's super optimistic, Jim, that it's not just this year, it's next year and the year after that we're starting now.
I'm up for believing in that. I believe in it, especially if we do. Oh my God, goodness, sure the goodness Slayer's gone.
Another 20.
Gone all in. If we go 2 goals down the final, I see every player for us killing themselves because they know it will change all the next season if they go 2 goals down. I see them downing tools because most of them aren't there next year. Do you see?
I don't think that's true. I don't like who isn't there next year that's playing right now. If we lose Bentancur, maybe Romero.
Tell.
This maybe.
I think we want to bring back Tell regardless of if we lose this final.
I
Will
think
he
he's
stay?
in Ange's
I don't
long-term.
know. But I think
he's in Ange's long-term plans, though,
he's
right?
definitely in Ange's long-term plans. I think he's in Levy's long-term plans because he's an appreciable asset. And there's nothing more attractive to Daniel Levy than an asset that can appreciate. And I think also like just based on the way that he's behaved himself since coming to the club, I think he's got one of the better mentalities on the team. If you want to talk about mentalities, I don't think he's one that's worried about downing tools.
True.
I mean, other than that, like I don't think there's anyone that is like nailed on leaving out of like the front three. I don't think there's anybody. Sun has another year on his contract, and I don't think that the club have made any noise that they want to get rid of him. Tell already talked about Solanke. Where would Solanke go? We bought him this season for.
Richie might go if we get an offer.
Richie might go.
What about Johnson? Do you think Johnson will go if we get an offer?
I think you've misunderstood Sean's point, to be honest. He's saying that Man United go 2-0 down, they have players leaving. If we go 2-0 down, we don't have players leaving.
Okay. We've read the pronoun wrong.
Well, it is a bit ambiguous in my defense. Yes, I think that if the problem is
if we go 2 down, our players kill themselves to win. If they go 2 down, they down tools. Right, gotcha, Sean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rewind selector.
That makes more sense. I was going to say I think that our squad is in the beginning stages of a rebuild, not the ending or
And
it's at the beginning of a cycle, not the end of a cycle. Yeah. So we don't have a lot of players that we are trying to move out. Most of them have already gone, I think.
And that's where I think just before you jumped on, we were talking about maybe the feeling this feels different to the 2019 final, because the 2019 final felt like a team that was over the brow of the hill and on the way down and needed a rebuild. Whereas this team, with all of the problems we've had this year, it is definitely a team that has got more in it than it has behind it, right? It's got more ahead of it than behind it. And that feels different.
What What about Tell in the 10 role, Deej? Sorry, I was faffing on my camera. If you already suggested
I
this.
did see that suggested, and
From Nick, that was.
the thing is with Tell is I think that is an intriguing option because I think that like he is probably our most, besides Bear, who also should probably be in the mix to start as a 10 because I think he's probably the one in the squad who's got the most recent experience playing in that role. I believe he played that for Burnley a little bit last season. If he's fit, Kulu is our 10, but Kulu did just undergo season-ending surgery this morning, so he's not, unfortunately. Sorry if this is the first time you're hearing of it. I had a good cry after I read it, but I think the thing with Tell is that he has probably the best on the ball, but I think his passing range is the most limited of anybody else that we can put there. I think he's still young, and it's one of the hardest things to do as like, especially as like a winger, where like a lot of like your passes are like the weighting doesn't super matter a lot of the time. Like you've got like, because like a lot of the passes you're playing are either crosses, which I've talked a lot about how Tell, one of my favorite players to watch cross the ball. Even before, like when as soon as I started like watching film with him, I was like, wow, this guy can cross the ball. I would watch him. I did watch him cross the ball for hours, basically. I basically watched every cross that he had for the last 2 seasons, and like 80% of them were good, in my opinion. But I think that it's either that or like a layback to like the fullback, and like if you misweight that pass, the fullback runs back to the halfway line, or the fullback, steps up a little bit further. Usually the fullback isn't under a lot of pressure when you're playing that ball. So you don't have to focus as much on that kind of specific weighting that someone like Madison or like a traditional 10 can get right really well. And that's something that does come with time, because like obviously if you play enough passes, 10,000 hours or whatever, you'll get that kind of weighting down as like a second nature. But I don't think he's had enough time yet where that's something that I would feel comfortable with him like being in that role, because of like the passing weight mattering a lot more. It also could cause some of the same issues we saw when he played as a 9, where he has to go up against more physical players, and I think that they can kind of shut him down a bit easier than when he has the physical advantage going up against most of the fullbacks that he faces due to his build.
My feeling towards Tell in the 10 would be that I actually probably would lean more towards Odebear being a better fit, just because he's better with the ball in tight spaces at his feet. He can sort of shift. Tell, probably the biggest part I found he needs to work on is when he's actually moving towards a player. He seems to just try and beat a man, and he gets blocked a fair bit. So, yeah, I don't know. I guess none of us know what's going to happen, and one of us will guess right who ends up playing there. But we have some good options, no perfect options, and it's going to be hard to say, because Son could work well playing off a striker. I feel like that could actually be a role that suits Son well if he plays closer to Solanke. Solanke drops in to play to pick the ball up with his back to goal, and then Son is sort of the higher up the field option at that point, and then they just rotate between each other. So it could go anyway, really. What's he said?
Sean says, put Romero in the 10.
Honestly,
he'll get there at some point.
He's got the passing attributes, and everyone would run away from him. So technically, you could just like Moses their defense, and they're just like break either side, right? Yeah, why not? I think if Pochettino was a manager, he'd probably do this. He'd probably whack Son at centre back and Romero in 10.
Remember when Son played left wing back that game? It was against City.
I do.
That was bad, wasn't it?
I think everybody still has nightmares about that one, Joe.
Yeah. We'll go beyond my tombstone, it will be.
The other name I'm seeing as a potential 10 option is Sarr, and I think that like that's a decent like idea. Like, he has played it, but I think his ball control isn't quite good enough, which like works to his advantage a lot, because he's kind of a lanky player, so he's able to like make strides past players, which is really useful if you're like a progressive 6 or an 8. But it's like a 10 where you're controlling in more tight spaces. I think that's kind of where he starts to struggle a bit more. Obviously, he's not afraid of a shot.
And it's going to be quite narrow in there. They're going to have they're going to play a double pivot with three centre backs. It's going to be really tight in there. You need someone who's got the a little bit of movement that can play a little bit more. Like to your point there, DJ's got a little bit more nimbleness about him and a little bit more skills to take players on. I'm not sure he's quite that. To your point, he's a quality. He can be a quality 8 or probably an 8's the best position. Did you think?
Yeah, I think that of the places that we offer him, either an 8 or like I think he could mature into a 6, but I don't think he's there yet.
He could sit in a double pivot, couldn't he? He could sit in a double pivot, couldn't he?
Definitely. I think that I also think another reason I'm not super on about it is because I think if he did play as like a 10, I think we would play similar to the other times we've played the same midfield. Because I think it's pretty much nailed down. It's going to be Bissouma and Bentancur in the other 2 positions. If Sarr is the third one, but we would then kind of have that midfield that has made us look bad. And I don't. I'd rather see something different.
Well, this plays as a 10 for Marley, according to Sean. So there you go.
I think that's the case with like a lot of these players that we have that are, especially our ones from like that have come from like for example, Sarr came from like a club, like the Ascent is basically a yo-yo club. Metz in France. I think they got relegated the year after he left, if I'm remembering correctly. I think they hover somewhere around the relegation range in League One. So like obviously when you've got a player like him that is like so just gifted as like a player, you want to put him in your most like impactful role, and that role is going to be a 10. And same with Bissouma for Mali. Like you've got a lot of like he is probably their best player, and you want your best player in your best role, which is another reason why I think he probably plays further up. But I think that obviously like these players could play the 10 for us. Like I don't think it's the end of the world if any of them did, but I think Bissouma was better as like a 6. As long as he can stay focused, I think on his day he is our best central defensive midfielder. And I think Bentancur honestly profiles even better as a 10 because he likes to get forward anyway. We saw that when he played as our 6 for like a while, and there would just be that conspicuous gap in front of our center backs, and Bentancur would be taking a shot from the right outside the 18, or dribbling inside the 6 yard box, and then we would concede on the counter. But I don't know. I think of the players we have, I think I'd probably like Odegaard the best, just because, like I said, he has the most recent experience playing it at a level that is the closest to what we have right now. But I wouldn't hate seeing Son, just because I think we could utilize him as almost a second, like a shadow striker, not in like the way that we have had Maddison play, because I think we already do a lot of our progression down the wings, and I think because they're playing a back 3, they're going to try to pack the midfield a lot. That's just kind of how that formation plays out, because you got like 3 in the middle, and you got the 2, and then the 2, and then the so we'll have more open wings anyway, and we do a lot of our progression on the wings as it is, and I think that this formation kind of allows us to do that, which would mean that we wouldn't have to have as creative of a 10, which means that I think we could potentially spring for someone like Son to go in the middle and play, be the guy who can recreate those Maddison runs that have given us so many goals this season.
So what about Sean's suggestion of Archie Gray? Played 10s in Leeds Academy. Bit too much for a big game to throw him in there, isn't it?
Too much too soon.
But so I have an announcement for us and Dejan, Joe. Just had a response back. This is a reason to become a member. I don't know if this isn't a good reason to be a member. I don't know what is. Someone who works in Spurs' academy and also works for QPR. I won't name names. I've been looking for ages for someone who works as a youth scout to come on and talk about scouting, Premier League talent, what it's like against other clubs, where how we all fit in as different clubs. Is there like a hierarchy, all this kind of stuff? This person has said they're going to come on the show and explain how it all works. How do you find these youth players? How do you compete with the Man Cities and whatever, stuff like that? I think it's going to be really interesting, because I think a lot of people would love to work in that field, but it's like, where on earth do you start? Like, how do you just be like, you don't go through uni and I don't know, because you never do or college or whatever, you rarely study what you end up doing. How do you suddenly be like, right, I'm going to start watching kids play football, I need a job? I think it's quite an interesting career path. That's a very cool one to get into a football club. So yeah, make sure you remember if you want to get access to that, because I'll put it out as a members vid once we've recorded that. Where was I going to go with that? Joe,
We
final
didn't even
coming
talk
up.
about Archie Gray.
Yeah, well,
Are
he's
we
not
seriously
going to play
considering
10.
Archie Gray and the 10?
He's not. No. Oh, I love you, Shawnee. But Archie Gray did play there as maybe he's like our 6th choice when we get a couple more injuries, maybe. Yeah, Son, but Joe or I don't want to give Deej, you'll defend him too much. Son isn't match fit enough to play in a 10. Discuss. Go back at Deej.
Are you wanting me to agree with you?
You gotta. One of you's got to Deej thinks he can play at 10. We've got to do that like aggro podcast thing where you two start disagreeing and start shouting at each other.
Well,
So
I do think he's fit enough. I think he's fit enough to play.
Then you say he sucks. He's not match fit enough. Mick's right. Then Deej comes back at you. Then Sai goes, chill out, guys. Chill out, guys. Chill out, guys. I think this. And I'm like,
or can I be the caller that phones in and the both of them just attack me?
Yeah. All right. But no, seriously, guys, either of you think that, any three of you think that Son might be a bit too risky to put in the position given he's been out injured for so long? I think it's just
not in a final. I think you can dig deep enough with, because I mean, fitness compounds too over the years. So it's not like he's coming back from scratch. It's not like he's had 6 months off in not doing anything. So I think he'll be able to dig deep enough to have enough energy to do it. So
does he do more explosive running in the 10 or on the wing?
I would say, generally speaking, if you are coming back from fitness, I think it's easier to play as in the 10, just because you're doing more running, I guess. So like that's bad, but you're doing more explosive running down the wing because you're still trying to beat a man for pace, and that's not as important. That's not as important in the 10 role, but I think it'll. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I don't know if he has like off his game enough, like if the injury thing is like an issue. The one thing I'd say about him putting in a brand new position is my guess is if he plays the 10, I'm going to guess he plays it as like a second striker. And while he might not have been shown that on the team sheet, he played that for several years with Kane. I would assume that would be how he played, but I don't think it would be as different as it kind of sounds. Because I would assume we would basically be playing a 4-4-2 if Son started as a 10 at the 10.
Yeah, I would have
pretty
thought
much.
so.
Yeah.
So we talked a lot about our attacking options. What about their attacking options? Because they've got some decent talent within there. If Fernandez turns up, that's a challenge, right?
Yeah, they have a proper 10 and a player who turns up for big games in that position.
You've got Garnacho that runs off him.
Yeah.
Who can score a screamer, but also waste so many chances.
Yeah, sure, for sure.
If you were doing,
we leave a lot of space, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. But not in this game. We won't, because we leave a lot of space when we don't have certain players playing.
Sure.
And the motivation against two. It's like with classic Romero. He is fully focused when the game means something, but he does not pay attention when the game does not have much riding on it. So, yeah, I don't. Yeah, what were we talking about?
He can keep Porro on that slightly shorter line that he keeps him on when he's playing.
Oh yeah, their team. I think Fernandez is the only one that gets into a combined 11.
You think? That's a good question, right?
Yeah.
Who gets the combined Man United Tottenham 11? Joe says only Fernandez. Deej, Sai, you guys
out of a fully fit 11.
Yeah.
Or this 11.
Out of the 11 let's just do the 11 expected for the final. But I
still probably would say yes. He's the only one.
I don't know.
Definitely not.
I might take Ugarte at the base of the base of the midfield.
That's true, yeah. But he probably won't.
That much.
They haven't been starting him. I might take Ahmad over Brennan. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's come back from injury, and which is annoying. I think he's a pretty good winger. Yeah, I agree with Sean. I think Ahmad is he is the reason that United are not 17th. He has won them games by himself.
He's been starting. I'm just looking back at the European games. Ugarte started, I think, all of the knockout phase.
Okay.
So I think
I thought I saw Casemiro
he'll probably start with.
one.
Yeah, both of them have started all of the knockout games. Casemiro and Ugarte have started all of the knockout games.
Yeah, but I think that's because Ahmad has been injured. So I'm interested to see if they continue with that, and because currently, like, the way that they're set up on like paper is they have Bruno as one of they basically play with 2 10s. They play with Bruno and Garnacho, but when everyone's healthy, I think they play with Ahmad and Garnacho, and then they put Fernandes in the midfield with Casemiro or Ugarte. So I'm interested to see.
JJ's in there, I think.
I'm interested to see if they continue with the more defensive approach that I guess I feel like we've kind of seen should be done for knockout games, or if they go back to, like, I guess, with their normal formation.
I think JJ is going to hop in, by the way, guys, just for the end as well. Get his 2 cents on it. Yeah, Garnacho is horrible. Says I think it means shit butt. I think it's what it says.
And then Mick M there. Yeah, do you watch Mason Mount come out and have a stormer off the bench?
He's been on good form.
Not tomorrow, next week. Yeah,
he's had a little resurgence at the worst time for us.
A bit, isn't he?
Yeah. And hello, Paolo.
Oh yeah, Yoro's out. That is a big loss. Lenny Yoro, their best center.
I wasn't aware of that.
And Delit's a doubt. Well, he's 50-50.
Probably. Martinez is out. I'm fairly certain. They have a sneaky lot of injuries this season. They have, I think, they're starting their entire back 3 is out.
In a final, would you prefer to have your defenders out, or would you prefer to have your 10 out?
Absolutely have your 10 out.
Does it have to be prefer? Can I have, like, one I least dislike?
Well, obviously. Well, that's the same thing.
You can't read. Joe's put the question out. You can't rephrase the question to suit your answer, Jim. Just answer the question.
Which one would I like the most?
Do you lose the 10 or your defenders?
I believe in the old Italian philosophy. Everything's built around a good defense. It's more important and easier to prevent goals than it is to score goals.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Would you agree? Was that your own question, Joe? What do you think?
I think I'd rather have the 10 out than because you only need 1. They could score an own goal. That'd be enough.
True. Like if you had to lose Mickey, or you
could say a second name that isn't Romero, and I can tell you I would rather lose the other person.
Yeah.
United are. Hello, JJ. How you doing?
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, mate.
Good to see you. We'll throw some of these questions at you, JJ. Let's get the coaches
straight in. No warming up, no stretching. You're on.
Ooh. The most common question.
Who's playing 10?
I was going to ask him what he thought the most common question was. And damn it, well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? In answer to his question, JJ, who would you play as a 10 and why?
I think we're in a really difficult situation. Again, I always come back to the coach's kind of viewpoint. Who's going to be able to train there with the most efficiency over the next kind of 7 days to give us the best chance of getting a result? And with the news that Decky's going to be out, it's really difficult to envisage anybody who is in our current setup apart from Odebear that would have much experience. Son, Not really, not as a 10. He used to do a great job kind of coming in and interacting with Kane when Kane used to drop deeper, but that's not traditional number 10. So if he's going to go with that classic 3 in midfield and we want a number 10 and we want someone playing there, it feels like Odegaard is all we've got, right? Am I missing anyone? Is there anyone else we should be thinking about? But
well, as the podcast has gone on, we've learned that basically every one of our midfielders has played 10 at some point somewhere in their lives. So
right.
Yeah, but
Basuma
Bray
plays
was
there for
academy.
Mali. Gray played there in the academy.
Mikey Moore.
Sarr played there for Mets.
I played there for the Dog and Partridge.
I would say, DJ, I obviously I follow Bis quite closely, kind of African connections with my work, and he's also played up front for Mali.
Yep.
So I would
Wake up, Ange.
pinch of salt in terms of number 10 playing in a European final. So we
should play him up front.
Yeah, well, that's the coach's view, everyone. You heard it here first. Quote him.
Don't clip me up.
Quote him
Don't
on
clip me up. No.
Until it happens in the final, and then clip him up. Then just wait.
Clip him
Let's
all
see
day long,
hindsight.
Yeah. I'm like we're really unfortunate. We're really unfortunate to be in a situation where we're going into a game of that magnitude with our 3 number 10 options, our 3 attacking midfield options. You could argue Berryval's an 8/10, but to have all 3 of them get injured in succession. But I'll go back to a conversation that was kind of pre-season, this season and everything that happened. I think a lot of people were very excited to see a really dynamic, aggressive and physical midfield of Sarr, Bis and Bentancur. And you wouldn't bet against that being the 3 if we were going to play a 3 in midfield, and then we would have to think more about how we deploy our attacking options from out wide. So it's a nightmare. It's a really difficult situation to be in, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Sarr, Bis and Bentancur. But if he goes with something different, then Odegaard in the 10 is the only one I can see at the minute.
What's the chances of Bergvall rising again? Do we think is there a chance? No, please tell me there's a chance.
I mean, there's a chance that there's a young player who recovers quickly, who's telling the manager and he's telling the medical staff, I want to play. But listen, I've suffered plenty of ankle injuries and I've worn that boot for many months of my career, and I'd be surprised if he's match fit going into
the delicate joints.
Yeah, it's a difficult
I've had an ankle replacement, and it takes a long time to get back from any sort of ankle injury.
Yeah.
What about a lot of people said Porro, and you could. I know.
Are we just throwing names in now? We're just picking names out of a hat and throwing them on the floor. That's landed at the 10. Yeah, go on.
You can see why your brain might connect and go, I've seen the passes. I've seen him create some really good stuff, but no. Is the answer.
His first touch is not. He doesn't have the ball control to do it. We've seen enough of the link-up play on the right with Johnson. It's the same reason Johnson wouldn't I don't think, play a 10 role. I just don't think he has the... I think that Porro's passing range is weird because the shorter his passes are, I think the worse they get. And so I'd rather take advantage of his longer, his long balls, his crosses. That's, I think, where he really shines. And also, taking a shot from the touchline for whatever reason 3 times a game. But I think of any of our, if we were to throw some random wild card Spade in the mix, I think that I would like to see, the player I'd like to see there would be Spence, just because I think he's got the best in terms of ball. If we're gonna, I'm not saying I think any of them should. I'm saying of the three wingbacks that we have, I think the only one that I can see potentially doing anything is and not looking really bad is Spence.
He certainly gets out of a pickle in those corners, doesn't he?
He does.
And if you put that into the middle of the park at a stretch, but yeah.
Tactics-wise, we were saying as well, JJ, like, what is the worst? The topic you on when we joined was like, what's more of a blow? Because yes, we've lost all our 10s, but Man United potentially lost all their centre-backs. So in coaching principles and things like that, would you rather be us or them in that situation?
Us, I think. You definitely, and again, it's down to systems as well. You've got to remember that the system that Ange deploys and the way that we play, and the stats have obviously been doing the rounds recently. A lot of talk about how we play when we've got our first choice kind of back 5 or 6 players available to us. There's no doubt that in terms of the stability of the team and also the attacking side of what Tottenham are looking to do, you want your first choice centre-half partnership out there. We need Romero and Van de Ven out there for the entirety of this game. And it's not just from a defensive perspective. So from that, I would say we would, if you had to make that choice gun to your head, you'd sacrifice your 10 for having your 2 first choice centre-halves if you're Tottenham. If you're Man United, who play ostensibly, they play a 3/5 at the back, maybe you could say that there's more cover, there's more protection, there's more options, there's more things that you could do with that. But yeah, I would definitely say we are in a more favourable position.
And with those 2 at the back, do you rest both of them for Villa and keep them fresh for next week, or do you give them some game time, get them working together again a little bit more?
Yeah. For me, they've got to play, even if they play 45 and 45, and you split them and you give them a half each. At the end of the day, what will be. You've got to get those players out there. You can't have them going into next week's game completely cold. You need them having match competitive minutes close to the game. There's plenty of recovery time, so there's no issue with tiredness or fatigue. The only issue is injuries, and given the season that Tottenham's had, yeah, look, I totally understand. The season we've had, you say wrap everyone up in cotton wool because they're guaranteed to get injured, 100%. But from the point of view, if you were going to do the right thing for getting them ready and getting them sharp for the week, for the game next week, you play them. You at least give them a half, if not 60 minutes.
Right.
Nate says, JJ, do you think we'll adopt something similar to the Newcastle system against United? Hold off on pressing on their goalie and centre-backs, lock up the middle, or do you the usual intense press?
I think if we look at it, it's a really good question. So if we look at the way that Ange has been deploying the team in the last kind of 10 games, maybe a couple more, and certainly in the Europa League, we have definitely eased off on our high press, right? We've eased off on throwing our fullbacks up. We've eased up on our midfielders being really aggressive, apart from in a couple of key moments. So I would say that feels like a direction of travel for what we're going to do, as opposed to, very sporadic. So it feels to me that we might do that. And, when you talk about being without 3 of your best creative midfielders, we're also going to have to look at certain things like how we hold the ball up, how we maintain possession, not just what we do in terms of when Man United have got the ball, but what we do to invite Man United into positions where we can get them where we want them to do the things that we want to do, which we've discussed a bit, Jim, on our chats as well. So, I do see us going into this game and not necessarily throwing the high press in as often as we do, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it periodically, which is not something that Ange has deployed in the Premier League. But certainly, it's a very common theme to kind of say that between minute 1 and 15, extremely high intensity press. This is what we're going to do. These are the areas or these situations on the pitch. This is where we're going to deploy this really kind of high energy presses, and then we're going to sit. We're going to drop off, regroup, take a breath, mid to low block, and see how the game goes. So yeah, I absolutely wouldn't be surprised to see us play a much more pragmatic way and cede a lot of possession to Man United, particularly if it's being knocked around, kind of in front of us instead of them getting their wing backs up against our fullbacks.
With that, JJ, do you think that we have an advantage in our running our physicality in this game compared to United. How do you marry those two together with if we sort of sit off a little bit and we do have an advantage and able to sort of run over them in a sense? Can you sort of mix those two strategies together?
Yeah, I definitely think you can. And I think even though there's going to be a difference in the quality of the opposition, Joe, I think when you look at the Buddha game, you could see that we were in control for the away game. We had technically and physically, we were better than they were. And so the way that we deployed our system allowed us to really nullify what they were trying to do. And I think we could use something similar against Man United in terms of letting them have possession on our terms, allowing them to have it in areas that don't affect us, but then being either super aggressive in when we press and we go forward, or when we pick up possession, then really going for them in a counter-attacking style. I think that we've got the players to do it. We've shown it in games against them as well. I'm thinking particularly of the ridiculous 4-3 performance, where I just felt that maybe physicality was the one thing. Okay, there was a moment of quality with Sonny's Olympico, but yeah, I think it's the kind of thing that we could definitely say that we've got running power, we've got youth. I think over Man United, I think we're probably going to go with a younger starting 11 than they will. So it's definitely something we can marry up in terms of a more pragmatic approach, plus the physicality of the players that are out there.
There you have it. So I think we'll probably wrap up there, but I hope everyone enjoyed the live preview. A new format we're going to keep this going, I think, is adding this in as a weekly thing for people. In future, the comments, they're subscribers only, by the way, as you would find that out. But we'll also do a members only live stream the day before each game as well for next season. But thanks everyone for joining in the comments. Up the Spurs. And what was the dance we were going to do if we win again, guys?
Oh.
The
I was hoping we'd forgotten about this. Yeah, that's
the Greek,
what it was.
The Greek Zorba dance.
Zorba the Greek.
We win the Europa League. There's no So Spurs Zorba dance coming.
Wow, that's crazy. My camera broke. Weird.
Yeah.
Audio only for me.
No, everyone on this podcast, you've signed a contract now.
In blood.
Like, Si, you'll know about your line of work contracts being like,
oh yeah,
if you've said it out loud, you've written it on an email, doesn't have to be official.
Not worth the paper it's written on, mate.
I thought it was.
Can I just say that I think we're going to win 3-1 and come on, you Spurs.
Should we do predictions? Should we do predictions before we finish?
Is it too early?
We'll have another game. We've
got another pod, haven't we, for the predictions?
We have a whole another getting confident, getting smacked at the weekend, and
we're going to win 4-1.
Villa review.
5-1.
4-1. 5-1.
Oh yeah, Villa. Yeah, let's do Villa preview.
Can we just preview this game 3 times instead of like doing the Villa preview?
I was talking about Villa when I said 3-1, to be honest. And
I think you're going to
Villa. Villa win 3-1 on tomorrow or whenever it is.
Okay.
I think we.
Oh yeah, it is tomorrow for you, isn't it?
I think we'll play a game of football. There will be 11 Tottenham players on the pitch at the kickoff. There will be a ball. It will go around. It might even go into the goal at some point. And we will all forget the game happened because nothing matters except for Wednesday.
There you go.
Indeed.
I agree. All right. So make sure you subscribe for the actual preview. And my camera is dying at the perfect time again. What a waste of money that was. Should have stuck to a simple old webcam. Up the Spurs, and I won't say roll on Villa Park. I'll say roll on Bilbao until.
Go on, you Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.
Go on, you Spurs.